The first thing I have to ask, which is basically the same question I asked you 5 months ago, is what the hell are you doing here? Like, how did this happen, Asia?
I know. I just feel like I honestly feel like I got so unlucky with this tribe. It's just like, in what world are you on a tribe with someone who you just in a simulation of 100 different lives, you wouldn't get along with them. So it's just like, okay, now my options are four other people. And then it's just like I felt like I was in a no-win situation where it felt like it was out of my hands. I know that it
Hmm,
felt very clear cut on the episode, which I'm excited to get into, but
yeah.
I just feel like it wasn't as simple as me not wanting to turn on Saul, which might seem out of the blue, but I felt like a huge part of the social dynamics on Lavo were like the clear-cut duos that were on Lavo between there were Rome and Genevieve, there was Kishan and Teeny, and then there was me and Saul. And me and Saul hit it off from day one. Like we were super close personally, and then also just like uh telling each other everything like from a strategic standpoint. And so I felt like it was just out of nowhere that I'm like, no, I don't want to write down Saul's name, not just because he's big strong guy who's helping us with every challenge, but also it's just like by voting out Saul, that's revealing my true position in the tribe.
So, your last minute play at Tribal Council, I don't want to call anybody out, but I hope the person who agreed to vote with me sticks to that. Who are you referring to with that? And what were sort of your feelings going into that Tribal Council, especially given that from our perspective, you had been told, oh, yeah, the plan is Saul.
So I that statement was specifically so that Rome would play the idol on himself.
Mm.
So when I had that conversation with Teeny and Keyshawn at camp, I told that they were telling me we think the safest thing to do is to vote for Saul because we think that we don't know who Rome is going to play the idol on. I said, okay, what if we just make sure he plays it on himself? Rome is a selfish player. He's not going to get up there, play the idol on Genevieve, and then go home himself. He wants that moment where he thinks he's going home. He plays the idol. It's the top 10 survivor history, like moves in survivor history. That's what he wants. And so I was like, what if we just make sure Rome plays the idol on himself? Keyshawn and Teeny agreed. They said, hey, okay, we're done. We'll think about it. We'll sit on it. And right before tribal, they came up to me and said, we will vote 3-1 on Genevieve. And I was like, are you sure? They're like, yes, well, like that we're cool with that. We're down doing that vote split. And I said, okay, I'm just going to make sure that Rome uses his idol. I was like, so anything, if I say it at tribal or you hear it, trying to make sure he's using his idol on himself. And so I even told Genevieve right before tribal, hey, I I don't want you out of the loop, but me and Saul got a third person to vote out Rome because I was like, she's just gonna
Mm.
run and tell him. So I was like, okay, just in case she did it, last chance at tribal council, third person voting, like the whoever is agreeing to vote with us, please vote with me. And that was so that Rome got scared enough to play his idol, thinking that Keyshawn and Ortini was not going to be loyal to him. And so then I was like, okay, he played his idol. Whoop de doo. He thinks it's a good big moment. Good for him. But then the missing piece of that was Keyshawn and Teeny's willingness to vote for Genevieve.
So, yeah, fill in us a little bit about the whole Saul thing. Because again, you said it's not necessarily as clear cut, maybe from your perspective, as well, I'm not budging on Saul, and so they want to vote me out because I wasn't willing to work with the majority. From your perspective, what do you think led to you talking with me today?
So here's what it boils down to. They did not need my vote to vote out Saul. They
Hmm.
had four votes. They didn't need me to agree. So the fact that they thought, okay, we're bringing you in on this vote to vote Saul, it felt like a loyalty test. Like you're just trying to, and I'm not like I'm not too prideful to be like, okay, I'm not going to agree to your loyalty test. But it was just like, well, if you're willing to vote out Saul, knowing the dynamics of the tribe, everyone knew the duos. Like it was so clear. We knew Keyshawn and Teeny were in the middle. We knew they could just pick whoever they wanted to pick. And so it was kind of like, if you're willing to get rid of Saul, then I'm next. Like not only are we going to be in a worse position going up against these other two tribes who just have like strong guys on their tribe, but you know that we're a duo. So it's not like you're gonna be like, okay, well, now Saul's gone. We're good with you. No, if you're telling me, oh, we're so scared for you. We think that if he plays the idol, you're going home. The only way I'm going home is if y'all are voting me. So like you're already in a position where you think you want me out, or like I'm in consideration if it's not Saul. And so it was already showing me that they were more loyal to Genevieve and Rome. And I just couldn't wrap my head around why they were siding with Rome. Because in
Mm,
me, the advantages are not enough. There's only so after he played, I knew he had Kishan and Teeny told me he only had one tribal to use it. And so I'm like, he uses his idol. All he has is an advantage moving forward. Whether that's a still a vote or extra vote, that's all he has. Either way, we have the majority with the four of us. Like
mm.
if it is us four. And so that's what I couldn't wrap my head around is why they weren't willing to turn on Genevieve when I initially brought it up. But then after, like when we were about to go to tribal and they said we're willing to, I'm like, okay, still packed all of my stuff because I'm just like, this is me just putting all my eggs in their basket and hoping they side with me. I'm like,
Mm.
there's obviously missing information that is not here. So I'm just hoping for the best. But if they do go with my plan, I need my vote, which is why I didn't play my shot in the dark.
I have to go back to the premiere because suffice to say, other super fans might have had a rough premiere. You definitely did not have a walk in the park. You step up to go on this journey on the first day, and you come back supplyless. And also, from our perspective, it seems like that is when, as Keyshawn calls it, the core four starts to form. And even though Teeny's trying to sort of be like, yeah, well, Asia could get in there too, it did seem like some seeds were being planted there. So talk to me about why you decided to step up in that moment. And did you feel that when you came back, there was a lot of ground to make up for from that perspective?
Yeah, so when Jeff said, "Hey, one person has to go," we turn around, like, who wants to go? Oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. If it's strength, I could do it. Saul was willing to do it if it was pure strength, but we didn't know if it would be. Keyshawn was, I could, but then the other three were just like, I don't. And so then Jeff's like, all right, who's going? We're like, we don't have a person. Jeff said, you have to pick a person. Go turn back around and pick a person. So we're like, okay. And I was like, well, do you, we're just trying to figure out who wants to do it. And I'm just like, someone has to do it. Like, we can't just sit here and draw rocks to go. Then it's just going to be somebody who isn't confident going. And I was just like, whether it's strength or whether it's a puzzle, I felt confident going into it. Little did I know it was going to be finding a needle in a haystack. But I was just like, okay, strength or a puzzle. I feel okay going to do it. And I was already feeling the defeat of not winning the camp supplies like in that challenge. So I was just like, look, if I can go and get this win, that will be great. And so that's the whole reason I stepped up because I was just like, I mean, even applying for Survivor, it was just like I believed in myself. So it
Mm.
was just like, okay, I'm gonna volunteer, believe in myself. If there's an advantage there, maybe that I could get something there. But other than that, like camp supplies, like we can have Flint tonight. So it just felt like it wasn't a lose-lose situation because I felt confident in my social abilities. Also, right before I left, Teeny turned to me and said, I can't wait to talk to you when you get back to camp. I said, okay, that's good. Teeny might know who I am. This is a good thing. And then Saul turned to me, grabbed my hand. He said, Asians for Asia. And so
Ah!
oh, yes. I said, okay, if at the very least, Saul and Teeny, I'm looking forward to getting to know them. And then I was just like, okay, I have ground to make up with the other three. But it felt like with those first couple of days at camp, with Rome being off doing his idol stuff, I felt like I was making up a lot of ground and getting to know the other members of my tribe.
Yeah, let's talk about some of these relationships. We'll start with Teeny because yeah, bit of an odd thing. I know that you we had talked about like what if you had gotten recognized. I'm sure you didn't anticipate facing that scenario on the first day in your own tribe, but you formed this tight-knit relationship that unfortunately does not bear out in, getting spared at this first tribal council. But talk to me a bit about this dynamic that you had.
Yeah, so it was so one of the things that I went into pre-game, I was thinking, no matter who's on my tribe, no matter how different we are, I'm going to try to work with them. Little did I know that would be like basically painted as like the Rome and the Genevieve on my tribe, where I was
Mm.
just like, I just couldn't scratch the surface and trying to get to know them. Like it just felt like me and Genevieve stayed so surface level for some reason. And then with Rome, there was just an inability of desire on his part in wanting to get to know me. He was always very annoying to talk to because it felt like I was giving an interview. And it was just like, you can only talk to someone so much when all they want to do is brag about themselves. And then you're just like, okay, you don't care to get to know me at all. It's very apparent, it's very evident. But I'm like, and then, but I'm like, I see you talking to other people. So I know it's possible. So it was like, it's a me thing. And clearly from the confessionals, it is a me thing that he just didn't want to, he had something against me. I don't know what it was. Y'all can figure that out. And so when I'm thinking about Teeny, I just didn't want to be, I felt like, okay, if someone knows me, I felt like I was going to be locked in and having to work with that person. It worked out in the first few days because Teeny is so likable. I was like,
Mm.
this is somebody I would have worked with, and like anyway, like whether Teeny didn't know, I think me and Teeny would have hit it off. We loved talking about Chipotle out there. We had very like, and then obviously love talking about RHAP, but it was like, okay, this is somebody I already would have worked with. And so then I was just trying to focus on getting our strategic relationship and to a point where like Teeny really trusted me beyond just knowing or thinking that I'm a threat because of what they knew about me. But then it was just kind of like, okay, once things started to transpire and I recognized there was a middle duo, I'm just like, well, isn't the move to take out the middle duo? But then it was just like anytime I talked to Genevieve and Rome about this situation, it was like, oh, I love Keyshawn. I love Teeny. And we would never want to get rid of them. I'm like, okay, so we are going against each other. Like there's no wiggle room here. There's not like I can say, but what about Keyshawn and Teeny? Like, no, they just what there was just never that door open. So it was like, okay, I have to go all in. I have to put all of my eggs in this basket. And all I can do is reassure these two that I'm with this for. Like that, like it doesn't matter what happens. This is the four that I'm rocking with until our tribe is at four. And so the problem was me and Keyshawn had a conversation the day of tribal where Keyshawn was like, I'm going to be honest with you. I think if we got to four, I would be the first one to go. I think you would prioritize Saul and you would prioritize Teeny. I'm like, we're not there yet. Why are y'all worried about that? We could literally not lose again. Like, what are you talking about? Why are we focused on that? Let's get through this vote. Why are you worried about it when it gets to four? Like, why are we playing for that when it's just like, actually, let's just not lose again? I know you can't plan for that, but that me and Saul were always like, so focused on trying to win. That's just me and Saul are just very competitive people. So we were just like, okay, we get through this. Let's just focus on winning. We try our hardest to win and we can win. We have that winner mindset. We don't have to think about, oh, the next tribal we go to, the next tribal. I know that may be realistic, but it was just like, no, we got to have confidence in ourselves. And so that's what really threw me off with Keyshawn is why it was like, I was hurt, but I wasn't surprised that Keyshawn
Mm.
wrote my name down because we had had that conversation.
Listen, I gotta keep scratching at this Rome thing because I know you're a very like even keeled, keeping your composure type of person. It's very rare to see you like visibly perturbed, and we saw that quite a few times in the edit when it came to Rome. I need more of your perspective on this.
Mike, do you understand how annoyed I have to be to not only express it, but like vo vocalize how annoyed I am? Like, I swear, after my confessionals of venting about Rome, I just felt so much better because it was like I wasn't even just what I could say in confessionals. I just wasn't saying to everybody else, but we were like, when Rome was gone on his journey, do you know how much we got done at camp? We were just, we were moving, we were cooking, we were being productive, we built a swing, we were having a great time, laughs, giggles, like vibes were great when this man was not at camp. It's just like I understand he was excited. We're playing Survivor. We're excited, but he was just overconfident, so overbearing. Like even in that scene where he asked us, "Hey, can y'all work on the fire because I'm catching these little tadpoles?" We're like, "Okay, yeah, sure." And then it's just like the minute we don't jump out of the water and sprint to go get firewood. I mean, he complained about everything. Just because we don't jump when you say jump, now you're mad. And then it's like he vented to me and Teeny one morning about no one caring about going to get firewood. And it's just like, I think it had even rained the night before. We're like, dude, what are you like? What's that gonna do? And so it just was so annoying because he was always focused on the fire at the wrong parts of the day. And it just was like, if we weren't running camp like he wanted to run camp, then he wasn't having it. And so that's why it was so frustrating because he wanted to be the provider, but he wasn't a provider. So it just was like so annoying in every possible way. And so me and Saul, we just had, I like Saul was my safety blanket out there. We got to know each other so well. I went to UT, he went to OU. So we just was like, we had that rivalry going, but it was just like, we're going to show that a Longhorn and an Aggie or not, a Longhorn and a Sooner can get along. So it was just like me and Saul just had the same, just like frustrations in the moment with Rome. And it's just like, oh my God. I don't even want to be talking about him right now, Mike.
All right, well, let's move on to a brighter topic to finish things off. Because you alluded to this a little bit in your final words about the difference, obviously, between watching the show, analyzing the show, and actually being on there. And, I'm assuming you're going to be eager to get behind the mic once more once this is all said and done. What do you think is like the biggest thing you're going to keep in mind now as a Survivor analyst and podcaster, now that you have seen the other side of how the sausage gets made?
I think the biggest thing is like having grace for the players because it's
Hmm.
so easy to criticize and be like, oh my gosh, like one common thing I am seeing after last night's vote was like, why not do 2-2-2? It would have been so clear. Listen, if you're planning against an extra, because in my knowledge, not knowing if he had an extra vote or still a vote. If you have an extra vote, that's 7 votes. Then okay, 2-2-2. I'm going home anyway. Him and
Hmm.
Genevieve wanted me gone. That's clear as day. And it's not just from the edit. I feel like it makes it seem as if they were gun ho Saul until I was not willing to get rid of Saul. I'm sorry if I came to you and said, "Hey, Teeny, let's vote out Kishan," or "Kishan, let's vote out Teeny." Would you have done that? No. So why am I being punished for not wanting to vote out Saul? You didn't need my vote. And so you could have voted out Saul if you wanted to vote out Saul. And so I just feel like with uh, now having played, I feel like it puts me in a position to understand how much you don't see and
Hmm.
also how little cognitive skills you have at that point. Like, I mean, people say like day 7, day 8 are the worst days, like where you're really the hunger is setting in at it, like it's at its worst. Then maybe you adjust after that. But like, I just like it was hard to think through things logically, and so it was kind of like, okay, right now, what I can figure out is a 3-1 against Genevieve. That's as far as I can get. Like that's what my brain has going based on like this coconut. At this point, all we've eaten is coconut and a sliver of fish. Can I just say, I don't even like seafood. I don't even eat fish. So the fact that I was the one personally pointed out from Rome about not wanting this fish that he was quote unquote providing for the tribe. I don't even like fish. I was just settling for just a different taste. I could have picked up sand and did that. So, whatever.
I mean, I know I am just a voice amongst, I'm assuming, the outpouring that you have received over the past few weeks, but I'll continue to vocalize it here about how much I adore you, and I will continue to do so on the island or off the island. It was such a pleasure getting to watch you do this. Obviously, I wish we were talking in a couple months' time, but as you said, a week in Survivor is a lot more than a lot of other podcasters, fans, etc., get to do. And we had such a great time getting to watch you do it. And I had
Thank
such a great
you.
time getting to talk with you today, as usual. I'm sure I am putting words in the mouth of a guy you'll be talking to soon, but we are so proud of you, Asia. And I
Aw.
am really looking forward to having you now back into the alumni circle as well
Right.
to extend some of that grace and put it to the test next season.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah, of course. I wish you and the doggos nothing but the best as well. And we'll be
Thank
talking
you.
very soon, my friend. Have a
Yes.
great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.